The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. So there they were, Jesus and his disciples, pretty much exhausted, right? But before that even could happen, that they could just totally be spent, you probably heard the line. It was very early in the scripture, right? Verse 31, come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while. And they went away, continuing, and they went away in a boat to a deserted place by themselves. And then again, that only lasted a short amount of time, and then off they went. People just coming from everywhere, right? Trying to, understandably so, trying to see the Savior and the King, Jesus, and to have him heal their loved ones. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that Jesus would have done that. And he himself also, come away with me. He didn't say, you guys go sit down. I'm going to keep on keeping on, right? Come away with me, and we will rest. So again, we see in several places that there really aren't biblical implications that Jesus himself took the time to rest. Hurry up and eat your breakfast. All right? How many of us have said that, right? Hurry up, you're going to miss the bus. Get going, right? Whether that was yesterday or whether it was, 20 years ago. We have all been guilty of that, haven't we? Hurry up, hurry up. Or, man, I've got to hurry up so I can get to here because then I need to go over here, and then, I promised this to whatever, and I really want to do this, so, man, I've got to hurry up. I got to get going. Don't we all fall into that category one way or the other, right? Some of us more than others, I realize. Maybe sometimes your life circumstances change and you're able to slow down a little. Other times not. We were just talking this morning that, Mark was saying too, I don't even know how I normally have time to teach full time because I'm so busy every single day. And he starts school on Monday, right? Retirees say the same thing, right? Now that I'm retired, I don't know how I worked a full-time job because I'm so busy doing so many other things right now. Hopefully, things that you love and you enjoy and bring you joy while you're doing that. But we all fall into that trap, I think. Again, some of us more than others. It reminded me of a book that I read several years ago called Addicted to Hurry. It's by Kirk Byron Jones. And again, if you're finding that this is an issue that you're dealing with, I would really encourage this book. And again, you're welcome to borrow my copy as well. But I'm sure you could get it, from Barnes & Noble or Amazon or whatever, used even. But it's called Addicted to Hurry, Spiritual Strategies for Slowing Down. And I really liked it. There's a section for questions and answers and reflection, and there's more of a theological basis in the beginning and then some more practical strategies at the end. And that's kind of what my sermon is going to follow as well, not anything from this book, but that same type of an idea is we're going to kind of start looking at, well, what are the issues that if we're in too much of a hurry, is that really such a bad thing? And then what are some things that we can do? And actually, I'm going to ask hopefully all of you to work on that on your own lives, because nobody knows you better than you. I wanted to start the sermon today with a quote or a story that John Ortberg tells. He tells a story that at once early in his ministry, he had just moved to Chicago and had a new ministry in place. And so he called a good friend of his that he considered wise, and he asked them for some spiritual advice or spiritual direction, as it's called. And so John says this. He said, I described the pace of life in my current ministry to my friend. The church where I serve tends to move at a fast clip. I also told him about our rhythms of family life. We're in the van driving, soccer league, piano lessons, school orientation night years. I told him about the present condition of my heart as best as I could discern it of where, I feel called to ministry or he felt called. And then John continues, what did I need to do, I asked him, to be spiritually healthy? Long pause. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life, he said at last. Another long pause. Okay, I've written that down, I told him a little impatiently. That's a good one. So, what else is there? I had many things to do, and it was a long-distance call, John says, so I was anxious to cram as much spiritual wisdom into the least amount of time as possible in this phone call. Another long pause. There is something else, he said. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. That's the secret this spiritual director had to share over and over with him, and I'm guessing with us as well this morning, to ruthlessly eliminate hurry. You don't have to be a prophet to know that technology, as helpful as it is, has made three things happen in this world, right? Our world has gotten smaller, our world has gotten more complex, and our world has sped up. You live a much faster life than your parents or your grandparents did. I'm sure you all have realized this, right? And the way the world is going, these children who just left us, right, for Kids Connection, are going to live an even faster-paced life than you all did. And this fast-paced pressure cooker lifestyle is so new to the human race. Did you realize that anthropologists are now studying to see how it's going to affect us in the long term? We don't know yet. The Bible tells us, though, that all this hurrying has a dramatic negative effect on us. Now, again, maybe this is a bad time to give this sermon, as many of our folks are gearing up for the beginning of school and the beginning of fall activities and schedules for us all. But maybe, just maybe, this actually is the perfect time to give this sermon and to think about this issue. When you're always in a hurry, your personal reserves get depleted and your stress goes up, right? We all would be able to figure that out, right? Because we've all lived that before. You have to periodically slow down. And there's nothing wrong with going fast unless you never slow down, right? Remember the Energizer bunny that just keeps on going, right? So this is something about if you have a good rhythm in your life, but yet sometimes you've got these crazy days. Of course, we all have those, not to worry, because then you'll catch up the next day. But I'm talking more of a chronic situation that we're always busy, we're always hurrying, we're always rushing to the next thing. And again, we lose that mindfulness I talked about last week of living in the moment if we're hurrying through life. When you run at a high speed, you lose joy. The faster that you go in life, the less that you have time to enjoy it, right? You've got to slow down. Just think about this. If you're traveling in an airplane, I don't know, what is that, 300, 400, 500 miles an hour, right? You're only getting from one place to the next. You don't enjoy the scenery really at all. I mean, you could kind of look at general clouds maybe, right? Think about when you drive on the expressway going 70 miles an hour. Are you really seeing very much? A little bit. It's kind of blurry as you go by, right? But you're seeing a little bit. But what about if you're driving through a small town and that speed limit is 25 miles an hour? Could be, right? Could be our 64, right? In downtown or Liberty High. And you know that, you've got to go 25 or you're going to get stopped. So you go nice and slow. Don't you notice things that you don't normally notice when you're on the expressway? And think even, too, about the times that you've walked in a town, right? When we were on vacation, maybe when you're on vacation, we always try to stop at small towns and just walk around. Because you're at the slowest possible pace, but that's when you can actually see things. You can actually see the small details, the sounds and the smells and the sights by walking, by going as slow as possible. If you're continually running from place to there, one place to the next, you're going to miss the details of life. Again, that's that same issue of mindfulness. So here's the problem. When we're going too fast, we can't hear God. If you're moving at that fast pace all the time, you don't maybe know God as well, because you can't know anyone in a hurry, right? If you're going to come in and meet somebody, hi, how are you? Good to meet you, and off you go, you have a very, very shallow relationship. But if you're sitting with someone at a table sharing a meal or just sitting together and talk for an hour, you have a lot more understanding and knowledge of that other person, right? And it's the same thing with our relationship with God. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." You get to know God when you slow down, be quiet, and become still. And again, not just giving God all your thoughts, but listening for God as well. All this activity sometimes creates too much noise, sometimes literal noise, right? But otherwise just the noise of our lives that we just can't focus. The only way, again, is to be still and have intentional times of inactivity. And wow, that's really hard. I was just talking to my sister-in-law, who's a real go-getter, but she's having some health issues. And she was saying it is so difficult. Somebody else from our church is waiting some test results. They were saying the same thing. I'm so used to going. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's one of the reasons how we can stay young and stay healthy is by staying physically active, doing things. But at the same time, if we're so unable to just be inactive for short periods of time, then that's an issue. Something different from, oh, I'm physically unable right now, right? That is frustrating, absolutely. But for those of us who are constantly on the go, and I'm not even talking physically, I'm talking even mentally, constantly thinking of the next thing, that's a problem. So how can we slow down? So I just have a few strategies today, and none of these are that, groundbreaking that you would go, oh my gosh, But at the same time, I hope there are some things that you will think about that maybe you hadn't really thought of before. Or maybe you had, but you just really hadn't tried to put it into practice. So just remember again that my sermon title was Hurry Up, right? And that is because that's what our culture tells us to do, right? Hurry up. But a God-filled life says, slow down. So first, what are some different strategies, again, that we can use? Well, one of them would be to learn contentment. And that's maybe kind of weird. You say, well, do you mean learn to be contented? Yeah, that's exactly what we can do. We can learn to be contented. If you're serious about slowing down, don't start with your schedule. Start with your heart. Paul wrote in Philippians 4, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. You are not by nature a contented person, are you? I'm stepping into Paul's quote for just a second, right? We're not, right? Each one of us traditionally has to work towards contentment, right? It's our nature to want things to be different, to want them to be better, to want them to be something other than they are, right? The grass is always greener type thing. But how is it that we can instead be content, not always wanting more and more and different? Paul continues there. He says, there is great pain in godliness with, gain. As soon as I read that, I'm like, that's not right. There is great gain in godliness with contentment. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can't take anything out. So if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. So again, Paul reminds us that it's not about the things in life. Think about it. We didn't have anything when we came into this world, and we won't have nothing when we go out, except, again, the most important thing, the love and the assurance of love from God and Jesus and a life forever with him. Second, first, try to work intentionally towards being content with your life and your circumstances. Even today, I'm thinking, boy, I miss seeing, so many people here. We all do, right? We don't have coffee fellowship. I miss all those different things. But at the same time, we have to think, okay, so how is it that we can connect in different ways? And trust me, I'll be praying about that all day today then, is how is it that we can connect? So I'm content, but yet we're also using that discontent to find new ways of serving each other, of new ways of connecting. But again, then also to be able to be content of this is what's happening in the world right now, and I'm going to make the best of it and do what I can to make it a better place, a better situation. Secondly, and this is a big one, listen before speaking. And we all know this, right? We all know this. But sometimes if you can really find something physical to remind you. I've read that before, right? You have too with behavior modification, that you find something, and I'm thinking of like a squeeze ball or something, that you keep next to your computer maybe, or where you put your cell phone. So it's a physical thing that will remind you to do something. It's kind of like setting out your water bottle, right, at night before you go to bed. So in the morning you see that water bottle and you go, right, I need to drink a lot of water today. That's healthy for me, right? So it's the same type of thing. Find something that will remind you. I was thinking if you have like a little mouse figurine. I know one of our church friends collects mice, not mice, real mice, but mice figurines, Maybe put one of those out, or a little picture to remind you to be quiet as a mouse, okay? Or just something that works for you, that reminds you to listen before you speak. But you know what? It's really not our fault in some ways, right? Because it's the speed of our lives that controls that. I really do believe. You may not realize this, but your mouth actually controls the pace of your life. And I really think that's true. I really do. And I look at myself again, because I talk really fast and always have, and my life has always been go, 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 which again has served me well in many ways, but also though, I have been working on trying to slow that down. The speed and how you talk to other people actually influences your heart rate and your stress levels. And again, think about this too. Have you noticed this? Or maybe if you're watching television, maybe you've noticed it. But we are becoming a nation of interrupters. Have you noticed that? Does that drive you crazy too? When you catch yourself doing it, right? Or when you hear other people. People don't let others finish their sentences. They talk over each other. You see it and you hear it all the time. People interrupt each other. It seems like everybody's talking, but nobody's listening. And you think, wow, when has our country, or my family, or when have I gotten so rude? Like, why? And one of the answers, again, is because of the speed of life. We've become so impatient that we're unwilling to let other people finish a thought. So we butt in. We're so eager to say our piece, to get our point across, that we won't even take the time to let somebody finish a thought before we interrupt. Notice that today. Maybe you're doing that to your spouse or to your kids or your parents. Notice that. And again, we've really been working on that at our house too, that Ben will start saying something and I'll go, yeah. And then I'll stop, and actually, he's had to stop me and go, Mom, I didn't finish my sentence. Oh, right, yeah, sorry, So we've been really working on that and just been noticing it. So see if you notice it in your household as well. And try to, again, take the time to listen to each other. James 1:19, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak. If you're quick to listen and you're slow to speak, guess what? Your life will slow down. Proverbs 29:20 says, do you see a man who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for him. So again, a man or person who starts speaking before they even think. Be in the moment. Be intentional about listening to others and think about what you say. Proverbs 19:2 says, a person who moves too quickly may go the wrong way. A person who moves too quickly may go the wrong way. So, I looked up some football facts. You ready? Anybody know who Roy Riegels was? Nobody, I'm guessing. I certainly didn't either. Roy Riegels. In 1929, in the Rose Bowl, he recovered a ball, and he ran 65 yards in the wrong direction. He would have scored for the other team, but if he wasn't tackled by his teammate. Anybody know who Jim Marshall is? The same thing happened in 1964. Minnesota Vikings were playing the 49ers, and Jim recovered the ball and ran 67 yards in the wrong direction and scored for the opposing team. Zeal, enthusiasm without knowledge is not good, right? So we need to take our time and really think about our actions. A person who moves too quickly may go in the wrong direction. And again, instead of firing back that angry email or text or responding right away to a Facebook comment, deliberate before deciding. Muse before you choose. Reflect before you select. Whatever little phrase works for you, maybe write it on top of your computer, right, somewhere. Consider your comments carefully before you decide. Pause and pray and ask God for wisdom and guidance. Again, we're pretty better at this, at least the older that we get, right? But still, sometimes in the heat of the moment, we can just want to okay, and off we go, 0 to 100. And again, most times I think if we stop and look at it, we'll go, oh, why did I do that? Or thank goodness I didn't respond while I was angry, right? So those are some of the reasons why we should slow down, right? And here's the practical part. First, you have to give something up. And that's tough. That's really tough. But you can't keep adding things to your life. You've got to ask yourself, what am I going to give up? If I'm going to slow down in these other areas, I need to give up something so I have that extra time to do that. And that's always something that we should do before we add something new, right? Think about that. What are my God-given strengths? Because maybe that's what I need to continue, whatever that is. Or secondly, make a list of your priorities. And if you don't, have you ever heard this phrase? If you don't know what matters most to you, other people will decide for you, right? So you need to know ahead of time, what is it what are the non-negotiables? I am going to church. I am going to, take that hour on Sunday morning and sit and watch worship at 10 o'clock. Or I'm going to, every Sunday night, I'm going to watch that recording of whatever that is. I am going to be committed to my spouse for time alone with them, date night. I'm committed to caring for my parents, right? Whatever those different things are, I'm committed to supporting this other neighbor in need every week, an hour a week, okay? So it doesn't have to be a ton of time, but it's what are the priorities that you have? And again, a good way to start, if you're not sure about, is God, marriage, family, church, job, and whatever other commitments that you have. So if you figure out what your strengths are and what your priorities are, that really does help you be able to know what you need to pare back in your life. So once you get your heart and your mouth slowed down, then you're ready to work on scheduling. So if you look on the back of today's bulletin, the very last page, you'll see a little section here. It says, come away from rush and hurry. And again, that was the title of our opening song this morning. And here's my suggestion to you. Make a list of how you might take 30 minutes each day to learn more about the will and ways of God. So here it is, I'm saying, okay, take things away, but I'm also saying by adding in some of these intentional times to be with God, you will be slowing down your life. So for some people, it's 30 minutes in the morning, whatever that is. I'm going to go for a walk in nature, and I'm going to just be quiet and listen for God. 30 minutes at night, I'm going to do these different things. But for many people, I've heard, over and over, oh my goodness, I'm so busy, I just don't have 30 minutes to do anything. So maybe try chunking it up. So 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And again, whatever it is that you would feel would be a life-affirming thing for you to help you to slow down. Even just taking 10 minutes of this, right? Just like put your phone on vibrate, just sit somewhere and just be, right? Because automatically, whenever you are quiet, and you can start to quiet your mind as well, and that can take some time sometimes to work on. Then again, we are able to hear God. Or maybe just that, I'm gonna just open up the Bible to any part, open up the Bible, I'm gonna read that. And I'm just gonna close my eyes after that and think about what I just read. 10 minutes, and off you go. But that little bit of time, for those of you who have Apple Watches, I don't know if you know that app, but it's the Calm app. And I think it somehow knows your blood pressure, because it seems to me that every time when I'm getting anxious or doing things very quickly, not exercising, but when I'm getting anxious, that this little thing comes up and it says, would you like to take a minute to just breathe? And it's great, because usually I'll go, oh yeah, I didn't even realize that I was getting all tense and stressed out. Sure. And then all it is just a timed breathing thing, you know? But whatever works for you, to be able to pay attention to that kind of timing, to be able to take, again, 30 minutes is just a kind of a random number, obviously. But to take some time, however you can do that in your schedule, to just be, and to just let that stress level go down, and to just give your problems to God. I was thinking about that, and I thought, I could use this spread out throughout the day just to let go of things. Just to go, oh, I'm worried about this, or I'm planning this other thing ahead, and I just need to just give God everything, right? God, you're in control. This is all, it's going to work out. Here it is. Because I could do that probably 20 times a day, right? Each one of us probably could. So I want to just conclude my sermon today on trusting in God's timing, not our timing. If you're serious about slowing down your life, then you've got to trust in God's timing. And again, some of this 10-minute thing could be doing just that. Discontentment is one cause of hurry, and impatience is the other. And really, if you think about it, impatience is lack of trust. Have you ever thought of that? Impatience is lack of trust. When you're impatient, you're saying, God, I don't really trust you. I don't think you have my best interest at heart. You don't know when I need it and that I'm in a hurry. You get worried and you get hurried and you start scurrying because you don't trust God to do it at the right time in the right way, right? It's kind of like when you try to micromanage something. You tell your kids, hey, will you go and load the dishwasher? And then when they're halfway done, you go, well, but I'm going to do this here and switch it around and it works a lot better, right? Because you don't trust that they're really doing it the right way. And sometimes we treat God that same exact way. Ecclesiastes 3:10 says, God does everything just right and on time. But people can never completely understand what he's doing. Maybe that's a phrase you need to put on your bathroom mirror or on your dashboard. God does everything just right and on time. God has a plan for each of your lives, but it's on his timetable. And here's the rub. God never explains his timetable. And doesn't that frustrate us to no end sometimes? The most painful thing is when you're in a hurry and God's not. God says, these things I plan won't happen right away. Slowly, steadily, surely the time approaches when the vision will be fulfilled. If it seems slow, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. God's going to act, but on his timetable. In other words, in God's perfect time. So don't let yourself be addicted to hurry. Don't listen to the world when it tells you to hurry up. Slow down to hear the clear, calm, still voice of God. May it be so. Amen.